Welcome into Win the Line, presented by the 33rd team. My name is Tanner Kern, joined alongside Maxx Forde, former CFL defensive lineman. Max, we are rolling through the season, already coming up on week 6. So my first question is, what's been the best unit you've seen so far, or the one that's impressed you the most?
Yeah, I know we've talked about them a lot on this show, but that Philly defensive front, especially that interior, has just been so fun to watch. They're so dominant. They reset the line of scrimmage. It's just been a joy to watch them.
Definitely, I agree with that. My favorite unit's been the 49ers offensive line. They struggled to run the ball a little bit against Dallas on Sunday night, but they were still able to protect Brock Purdy. They can do it all. They can run wide zone. They can run power trap. So it's just really fun watching them week in and week out. As we do on the show, guys, we're going to break down some injuries, then our favorite mismatches of the week and the ones that you should be looking at for betting in DFS. The injury bug hit a lot of teams hard this week. First off, we'll talk about Pat McCarry. He's a chest injury for the Ravens. Should be fine on Sunday, but that's one note. The biggest injury that surprised me and actually, hurt me on the inside because I love watching him play, Matt Milano. He's now on the IR for the Buffalo Bills. He is their best linebacker and a guy that can run sideline to sideline. How much is this going to impact that Bills defense?
Yeah, he, like you said, he's kind of the linchpin of that defense. That defense is a fast defense, and it kind of starts with him. He's that quarterback of the defense, if you will. And so it's definitely some big shoes to fill there. We'll see if they can do it. I know they've had we've talked about their depth on the defensive front. I know he's kind of a little bit behind that. So we'll see if the linebackers there have the same depth that the defensive line has. So,
yeah. That game on Sunday from London was just like carnage. Players were getting hurt left and right. We have another two. Cam Robinson, elbow injury, left that game early, and Walker Little left the game early with a knee injury. It looks like Robinson will play this week. Walker Little, though, I can't say the same about him. Those two guys, when they were in the game, this Jaguars offense looked very reputable. When they weren't, they really struggled. And that's key for Trevor Lawrence. He needs a good offensive line protecting him. So how do the Jags get by and find a way to protect Trevor Lawrence without these two and also run the football with Travis Etienne?
I think the big thing is getting that short passing game going, kind of help your offensive line get the ball out quick. It's kind of an extension of that running game. And I know, just a question for you. Like, when you guys, if you're down on the offensive line as an offensive lineman yourself, what kind of stuff do you like to do to get going? Because I know that quick passing game could be frustrating for a defensive lineman. You feel like you're beating your block there and ball's gone. So what's it like from your end?
I think quick passing game, something you can do. But for me, I just want to lean on the run game, right? You have guys that know how to run the football. Offensive linemen love running the football. And I think that's a better way to mesh. I think it's easier to mesh in the run game than it is in the passing game. Passing game's all based off feel. And, there's a lot of guys moving in front of you. Where the run game, you know exactly what you're doing. And you need to get to that point of attack. Like if you're trying to reach a 3 technique, you just got to reach the 3 technique, right? And that can make a play happen. And they have a very good running back in there with Travis Etienne. So I still think leaning on the run's the biggest thing, and then working into play action down the field with Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence is so good too. He can do a lot for you. He can make plays without a ton of blocking. But definitely they need a better unit in there, because when we saw those two in the game, they looked very, very good. So as we're moving in the mismatches here, a couple undefeated teams we're going to break down. First off, starting with the Buffalo Bills defense, not undefeated, obviously one loss, but they're going against a Giants team that really hasn't looked good on offense. The Bills defense has a lot of injuries right now. But Max, how do you see this one playing out for the Bills against one of the worst scoring offenses in the NFL and the Giants?
Yeah, it's a choice matchup for sure for Buffalo's defense. And we've talked about it in the past. Like I said, Buffalo's defense has a lot of depth there, especially up front. I think that they'll be able to fill it enough to beat the Giants here, for sure. Obviously, long-term, it's more of a concern there. But we've seen the Giants just get ravaged on a few weeks. Like opening week against Dallas, they got completely dismantled. Saw them get dismantled again against Seattle. This is just an offense that you want to pick against, especially when you have a good defensive front like Buffalo does, even with those injuries.
Yeah, Von Miller returned last week. What did you see from him against the Jaguars, and how do you see him progressing this week?
Yeah, I know they kept him on a little bit of a pitch count there. With a guy like him, you only need a few snaps to change the game, because he's got probably the best get off of this generation of players, last decade, maybe 2 decades there. And that speed with that get off is just so hard to defend against, or block against, I should say, with him being the defender there. So he's a guy that can change the game on limited snaps. I'm sure he'll get more snaps this week, and we'll continue to see that role grow as the season goes.
Yeah, I see the Giants doing a lot of like chipping with the tight ends and using Saquon out of the backfield on passing attempts, always making sure that they know where Von Miller is on the field because he can mess their entire offensive scheme up. Obviously, we don't have props right now, recording a little earlier on Wednesday, so we don't have those Sunday game numbers in yet. But do you see Saquon Barkley having a decent performance against this Bills front?
And they need to lean on him because without him, the offense has looked anemic. They're going to need to hand him the ball, and just on volume alone, he might get there, but I don't think it's going to be pretty if he does. It's going to be one of those, just volume plays rather than the efficiency there. I think depending on what that line is, he can do it, but it won't be pretty.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we saw it last week with Travis Etienne. Like, he wasn't getting a lot on the ground, but they continued to pound the rock with him. Eventually it broke 26 carries, 136 yards with a long of 35. But that stat line looks a lot different than what the game actually looked like for the majority of the action. So moving into the Philadelphia Eagles defense, we're talking about our first undefeated team here against the New York Jets offense. Jets pulled off a huge win over the Denver Broncos. Shout out to them in the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game. I don't think they're going to have the same success this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. We look at this front seven. It's ridiculous. Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. Fletcher Cox is questionable in this game, but they have a guy like Jalen Carter right there that can come in and fill that void if he doesn't get the majority of the snap. So how bad do the Eagles beat the Jets into submission this week?
I think it could get pretty ugly, especially with that injury to Elijah Vera Tucker. Actually, one, we didn't mention there. But yeah, he's been a good piece on their offensive line as well, and missing him, good young piece there. It could get ugly, especially. Yeah, I just think that defensive interior we've talked about it. It feels like every week they just continue to dominate up front, and I just don't think the Jets have an answer for it, especially with that with Zach Wilson back there. I know he's been a little bit better than he was last year, but he's still not what you expected out of Aaron Rodgers this season. So,
no, I mean, the Eagles defense has been fantastic all year long. When it comes to defending the pass, they're not as great as they are against the run, but they are the number one run defense in the NFL right now, only giving up 61 yards per game. So I don't see Breece Hall having a huge day like he did against the Denver Broncos. It's going to be a little different. And then on top of that, you have a quarterback in Zach Wilson who can't do a whole lot for you. So they can really key on the run and load up the box in this one, even though Wilson has been playing a lot better. So I want to give him a little shout out. Moving into some DFS mismatches here. The Detroit Lions defense priced at $2,700 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Buccaneers are wearing the creamsicle jerseys, so I don't know if that impacts your DFS play at all. But this Detroit defense has really been finding a rhythm. Aiden Hutchinson's been sensational, and they're getting after the quarterback. Does Baker have any chance of being successful in this football game?
Man, I didn't know they were in the creamsicles. Might have to adjust the ranks here. I think the creamsicles might give them a chance, but outside of that, I think that this Detroit defense has really been surging, man. Aiden Hutchinson, like you said, has just been going crazy. Who would have thought with those short arms that I think Jacksonville didn't quite like there. I think he's playing all right with them. Getting to the quarterback, making plays in the passing game, got an interception already this season. He's just been wreaking havoc. And that defense has looked really good ever since week 2, where they kind of struggled there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's been he plays with a huge motor. I think that's going to be very, very tough for Tampa Bay's offensive line to work with here. The thing about the Buccaneers is they continue to stick with the run. They don't have a great offensive line, but they continue to pound the rock. I just don't see them having a lot of success in this game doing that. So I think Baker could have a decent day throwing the football, honestly, because they're going to have to abort that run game pretty quickly to have a chance in this one, especially with how the Lions play offense.
Oh, absolutely. And that's that complementary football I think we mentioned last week, too. With the way the Lions play offense, teams got to take risks to keep up there. When teams take risks, that's when the defense can make plays. So having a good offense behind you, too, helps a lot. And Detroit definitely has that this year, especially if they get some guys back from injury.
Yeah, the one caution playing this one, the Buccaneers are coming off a bye week, so they do have a little extra rest time in there and time to prep for Detroit. So moving into our final DFS mismatch here, we got a lower price than usual. We like to stay under $3,000 for these, but we have a $2,400 price that Maxx is eyeing here. Arizona Cardinals defense versus the LA Rams offense. The Cardinals were expected to be one of the worst teams in football. That honor does not belong to them. They're actually playing very hard on both sides of the ball, Maxx. So why do you like this matchup against LA?
The biggest thing is what you just said there. They're playing very hard. Like, you watch the tape there, and you just see the energy coming off the field when you see Arizona defense. And you have a guy like Dennis Gardeck, who was a special teams ace for a number of years, earned his stripes, is now getting reps with the defense, and they're putting him down there on the line in pass rush situations, and he's getting it done. It's been fun to watch him get it done. Zaven Collins, they switched his position to edge this year, and he gives them a lot of flexibility too to get those zone blitzes going, because he can drop better than most defensive linemen, given that he was a linebacker. And so they can do some fun things with that front there, cause some confusion. And with the Rams, they have done well on offense at times this year, but they've kind of been hit and miss. So I know they have Cooper Kupp back, which makes it a little bit more scary with him and Nakua both on the field at the same time. But if you're looking at a $2,400 price, I don't see why not here. You can save some money, maybe spend up somewhere else, and you might get burned. You always might get burned when you're spending down here, but I think this is one that you can play for sure.
Yeah, I think the risk reward is definitely worth it with the $2,400 price tag here. Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck, 6.5 sacks between those two this year. And this is an offense I think the Cardinals are going to thrive against, because the Rams don't want to run the football. They want to throw the ball down the field. That's been their main option. And these Cardinals can just pin their ears back and go. My one fear too in this game, you don't have James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals now. So that's going to put the defense at a little bit of a disadvantage. We talk about that complementary football. So they might be on the field a little more this week, and they might be on the field a little more moving forward, but they can still rush the passer. And that's one reason to take them here for $2,400. So I do like this one a lot.
Oh yeah, that complementary football piece is huge. If you're on the field more, or if offense turns the ball over, especially on the plus side of the field, it gets real tough. So do have to factor that in a little bit, but I think it could be a fun spot to play there.
Definitely. So final question for you here, Max. Out of the Buffalo Giants, Eagles, Jets, Detroit Bucks game, or the Cardinals Rams game, what's the favorite one that you're eyeing from DFS betting, any kind of angle?
From DFS, I think I like the Detroit defense there. We talked about it. I just think that defense is playing really good football right now. They're playing fast. They've got a front that can affect the game and affect that quarterback, make him do things that maybe he doesn't want to do, especially when you've got an offense that can make them chase points. So that's one that I really like, especially that $2,700 price. If I'm looking to spend down, like we said, we go Arizona, but if all things in, I think I like the Detroit matchup there.
Yeah, I like the Detroit matchup. I think that'll be fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to that Buffalo defense versus the New York Giants offense. I want to see if the Giants can find a way to compete, because, again, Buffalo is beat up on the defensive side of the ball. I still think they're going to dominate this one, but you never know with these bad teams. Some weeks they come out and play on fire, and the Bills are very up and down on both sides of the ball too. So looking forward to that one there. That was Win the Line, guys, for week 6. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be back next week in week 7. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, share, follow, tag us on Twitter, ask questions. We'll interact with you there, and we will see you next week for another episode.